Life is hectic, demanding, and doesn't stop. When honest with ourselves, we must confess we often don't know what the hell we're doing. The Larkcast is an ongoing conversation about the inclusive and mischievous nature of God's presence through the lens of all the things that make up this phenomenon we refer to as life. Astonishing grace and refreshing honesty collide right here for your weekly encouragement.
That gave them an advantage, no doubt. Gave them an advantage. You got this older, more tuned dude. But that's a little different than 47 players in 5th, 6-year options on one team. Right?
They all got full beards, mortgages, and
2 kids,
2.5 kids.
And then again, on the other side of the ball, you've got, this dude that's already graduated from college, comes to Miami, has never been to class, lives off campus, gets paid $4 million a year, drives a Lamborghini. I'm just saying he's an NFL player, basically.
Yes,
he's a full-time.
Well, no, he's a college. He's a college player. That's the modern, the modern day, really good college player. But Coach Spaghetti figured it out, dude.
You got a pro athlete over here playing for college that he doesn't take classes at. And then over here, you've got 25-year-old dudes, NFL age, playing, which I give the man credit. Like he found a loophole within a system and played that to his advantage. And I'm like, brilliant.
Well, next year he needs to go find some 25-year-old linemen because Miami's D line was giving them boys fits, man.
Yeah.
If you look at Cam's my oldest. He's, played high school ball. His buddy, Trevor Gibbs, is actually going to IU next year. He committed.
Oh, that's cool.
And but he was just looking at the average size of Miami's D line versus Indiana's O line. He was just like, bro, all those D linemen are like 6'6" and above. Like, there's some big dudes out there.
There was that one play where that I forget his name, an end for Miami. I think they said he was 6'6", like 275, runs a 4.5 40. He just like grabs that running back dude like a rag doll and
just whipped him down.
And then chased him down on that other play. Like, anyways, just watching it, I'm like, college football's dead, man. Greed's killed it. Like the loyalty and love of just sport and fun and, kids playing for their school. I'm saying this across the board. Like that's what made it great.
Yeah.
And it's just,
so if you tuned it in, I hit record on the tail end of a long college football discussion where Russ was, just bemoaning the fact that college football is not, this pure thing that it once was, where you played for the love of the game and, the love of and the pride of your school. It's ruined now. So Russ wants to make college football great again.
I do. I want to make church great again, Grace great again, Walmart great again, politics great again.
Oh shoot!
I'm like turning into an old man, bro.
I'm just lofty goals.
Everywhere I look, I'm just like, come on, man. I mean, I love all my friends from Indiana. I'm happy for them,
Well, I mean, just to put it in perspective, like I'm from Indiana. I pretty much lived here since I was in 2nd grade. Like I'm happy, for all my friends that are IU alum, and I know a bunch of people who have gone there, and I was texting all them last night. But like, I'm a Bears fan, dude. Like, I could be happy for a team, but I can't just like up and just decide to just root for, another team. And I never really had a college team because my dad didn't have a college team, and that's kind of what I grew up in. And I didn't go to college, so I'm happy for all of them. I tried to be a Notre Dame fan for a while, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. And of course, everybody who's new to this podcast is like, I thought this was like a ministry, Jesus, grace podcast. Like, what's
It
I'm
is. But when Tony gets on, he might be bragging about beating some dad that told him he didn't want him coaching his daughter in basketball, which I beat him again this past weekend.
bro.
If you want to know what I'm talking about, just go back 2 episodes, 3 episodes. Oh man, too funny. Dude, a coach on the other team went up to the guy who runs the league and was complaining that our girls are too aggressive on defense. This is a grown man. A grown man. So wait. You want them to play like girls? Is that what you're saying, bro?
What do you do, man?
What do you do?
What do you do? This I've been kicking around this idea for a little while in my head. I'm not ready to move on it now because I've already got a couple things that I'm writing that'll come out, this year. But I have found myself wondering, like, man, would it be helpful to maybe put a piece out there called, I don't know, maybe title it something like Seeing the Lark, right? Right. And by lark, I mean, the joke, right? This divine joke of grace, right? God's grace on the religious rules that we've made up to govern everything, and including him and our images, and right. Seeing the lark would almost be like just working through all the various things that we encounter in our daily lives in society, from like what you see going on in politics, to what you see going on in education, to what you see going on in business, to watching a coach bemoan kids being too aggressive on defense in fifth grade basketball. It's just helping people just sort of see, like, just that human addiction, right? To like self justification, just constantly trying to, we just always seem to like find a problem with anything we can. And then bringing our solution to the equation to make us feel like we finally matter. Right. It's just constant. It's everywhere. It's at the root of, right, of just so much of the demise. And, but yeah, just being able to like to notice that and just sort of see the lark of grace, you know what I mean, in that. And hopefully it would maybe accomplish two things. One, it would give you peace of mind as you encounter these things. And then two, it would help you, right, sort of spot the reasonings behind them so that you don't find yourself vulnerable.
Yeah, it's like if
traps.
Yeah. It's like if in Romans, Paul says the law shuts your mouth. It shuts everyone's mouth. And then grace like forces you to laugh, even awkwardly at first, like everyone's laughing around you. And you're just like, man, I know I should be laughing right now, but I'm a little bit salty. I'm a little bit salty that my nice little safe dwelling place of righteousness is just toppled to the ground, and I was been full of shit this whole time, and you just realize how good he is. Might take you a while to get over that one to start laughing, but you'll start laughing eventually.
Yeah. It's not going to come quick, that's for sure. And anyhow, the reason why I brought that idea up, because it came to me while you were sharing, is basically to also laugh at this. While this book might be able to help you spot the addiction to self justification, right? That's driving so much of what's happening around us and to us, and to be clear, in us. And to see the lark of grace in that. The third thing that this book will do is probably help you realize that seeing it might not be the cure. like just because you can see it, right? Just because you can spot it, and maybe even get to a point where you can laugh at it. It might not relieve the tension, the struggle that you yourself have with it. Hence why my friend Tony, who's been on this podcast for a very long time with me, lots of conversations about Jesus. We've traveled the country, even overseas together.
We have.
And if you're watching this podcast versus listening to it, you saw the moment where he had to pull back from the microphone because he was laughing so hard out of the pure joy in his heart of sticking it to his dad in his second win against against his daughter's team, because he felt like you did not qualify as a coach for fifth grade basketball.
Oh man. You know, it's one thing when you see a coach that's out there having more fun than you, you know, and just I jump out there and I'm in the layup lineups with the girls and we're high-fiving and catching up, and you know, it was our first game back from Christmas break, and I've gotten to know a lot of the parents and stuff too, and we laugh and joke after, you know, when they come pick them up for practice and at games and stuff like that, and just have like it's just a really fun group of kids. You know, it would be one thing if it was just that, and it's like, oh man, I told this guy I didn't think he was fit to coach my daughter, but man, he looks like he's just having like a lot of fun. But man, they suck, dude. They keep losing by 20 points every week. It'd be one thing if it was that, but it's that plus we just beat you twice.
You're still finding joy in it.
Dude, I love it, dude. I love it. And I'm just a competitive dude, man. You know, I mean, I played sports growing up as a kid until, you know, I realized that, you know, 5'10" and 110 pounds as a white kid don't cut it. And a primarily black school, and you know, I'm a competitive dude. I always have been.
So yeah, I guess you didn't like grow and get bigger and taller until you got older.
Yeah, I hit 6 foot when I was like a senior, and that was just pretty much done. But
and then you were
played
like,
a lot of
Dang
pickup basketball. I mean, dude, if Signetti was around back in the day, dude, maybe I would have I would have hit him up, dude, as a 25-year-old. Like, let's
well,
go.
I don't.
You need a fullback, dude. You need a fullback over there.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, based off the college football rules, Tony, it's not too late.
dude, I'll get out there.
I mean, you might be able to take a
I'll
little
be the only
stab at
guy,
it.
my white beard hanging down below. Dude, could you imagine my white beard in that IU uniform? Ooh. Dang, bro. Be like, is that Santa Claus under there?
I was just about to say, look like
Dude,
Santa Claus running out.
Santa Claus.
Look at that red uniform and that white beard. Oh my gosh. Yeah, man. It's a real thing, dude. These struggles we have. And I'm
But like
glad I'm glad you were able to confess on here publicly.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, is it bad I don't have any shame about this?
Well, that's the next that's where the conversation moves next.
No shame. I think you know, it's funny. I don't think I think I've mentioned this before, but it's interesting watching my kids, because we pulled out of like the Western Normative Church, you know, when they were younger. I think Camden might have been like 5th grade. You know, it's probably the oldest. So kind of just, he really didn't hit that like youth group phase, you know, like it still was sort of like, you know, maybe like Bible lessons, you know, grade school kind of thing. It wasn't like the hype of like, you know, change the world, and, you know, every week's message was don't vape and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. Like they don't have the same spiritual anxiety that I had and carried growing up. Like I'll start to just kind of share who I've discovered, you know, the father in the midst of my story, and theirs is a little bit different. Like they don't have the same sort of, you know, hangups. it's pretty interesting. They are like completely free to share. They don't feel like they need to hide anything from me, even their shortcomings and failures. And maybe that's because Pam and I have been honest about ours. But even just last night, like we were just having this like full blown, like just real raw, honest conversation in the kitchen, with Cam and a couple of his friends who do have that spiritual anxiety, who have grown up in that, and their minds were just blown that we were just having this free, serious, genuine, authentic conversation, um, about stuff that they would just never imagine being able to like chat with their parents about it. And like good news was getting brought in, and like the, just all of it. It was, it was pretty cool. So I'm glad they got to see that. But when you're not trying really, really hard to be someone, or you're, you know, you're fighting really, really hard for your kids to be somebody so that you don't lose your job, like, and they're just sort of free to be them and make all the mistakes and, all that. And you value more the relationship and the longevity of the relationship rather than the behavior and the doing the right thing every single time in the moment. You win the person, you get to still have the relationship. And I've seen so many parents I run into now that I knew, and their kids are a little bit older. Some of them have turned out really great and they have good relationships with their kids. But dude, a lot of people not only have left the church and left the faith, but like they don't even have a relationship with their kids anymore, bro.
Yeah,
And it's just sad.
that is sad. I think the relationship is, at least, when you back up, in the scriptures and just look at, just the nature of who God is. You start with Trinity, right? You start with relationship. Which, little side note, because I was just in a conversation about this, which is relevant to what we're saying here. But this dude from a pretty religious dude, pious man, uh, and would even tell you so, could not wrap his head around like the actual meaning of the word holy, right, from scripture. It always immediately gets like, whenever you hear the word holy, your mind generally, because of the influence of religion, runs straight into this idea of like zero bad behavior, right? Not a single thing ever done wrong.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that God has, right, done anything wrong. I'm just saying that the word holy, right, within Hebrew just means to be whole, WHOLE. It's
Sure.
a wholeness. It's right. It's lacking nothing. And so again, you go back to Trinity and you have this holy God, this Father, Son, Spirit. They're whole. They're lacking in nothing. And so there's this perfect dependency, right, within this relationship, hence freedom, right? Freedom comes from dependence. And when you start with that, and then you move from there into why this God chose to create us humans, it was for us to enjoy the relationship he has. I mean, that's the whole reason why we're here. That's the whole reason we were made.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to share himself with others. So relationship, what I mean, from the get-go is the point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And to watch an institution, which how it became an institution is a problem in and of itself for another conversation, but to watch what has been labeled church, result in an idea of God and faith and discipleship that would end relationship, right? That would hinder relationships. I mean, talk about just, you just miss the whole point of it, man. As a parent, you miss the whole point.
Yeah. And that's not to say that, that it ends that way 100%, or that's the 100% the outcome. I think we gotta be fair there, but there is something about the pressure of performance, the pressure of religion, the constant, um the constant inward looking, and
Yeah.
pushing your kids to get on some sort of path towards, you
Oh,
know whatever, might be regeneration, to become, saved, and then from there to grow into this, sort of ideal person or whatever. um yeah, it's pretty crazy, but I've had a lot of conversations with Pam, my wife, because she was a little bit hesitant when we stepped away, and we had a lot of, like, arguments and fights, and just anxiety about, like, man, like, are we hurting our kids, are we harming them,
yeah.
by doing this. And now the youngest is in 6th grade, but she kind of feels like she's in 8th grade, just because she's all got older siblings, rather. um and they all, like, openly talk about, we talk about faith, we talk about God, and they have a general interest, and they're all on their own path, and stuff like that. Like, that faith is still there. The gospel was always, still there, and the love, of their parents was always still there, and the church was experienced too. It just was experienced, around the table, and people popping over, and all the adults that know them, and even as they've struggled with various things, we've said, like, hey, reach out to so and so, and here's a number of someone they already know, they're a friend, and they're in their 30s, or they're in their 40s, or whatever. So we are rich, in the essence of the church still, with the friendships and people.
Yeah, I think that's a key factor, man, for
And my
sure.
story f's with people, dude, because, and I get it, because it really would have f with me too, because you'd be like, well, how, I mean, you don't come here on Sunday. Well, dude, your whole family's going to shit, dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so just being a presence in my community, and my family being a presence in my community, because we still rub shoulders a little bit with church folks, and I've really been trying, I would say, maybe the Holy Spirit's been, like, putting his little finger on, not treating church folks like the dad who didn't want me coaching his kid. um yeah, he's still working there, but
Well, that's probably a good thing,
yeah,
right? There's probably some joy to find to walk in. But I think, the
maybe.
prioritizing of the message and letting it be as rich and scandalous as it is, that's that's what that's what creates that sense of freedom
Hmm.
and safety, right? With you and then with others. And I think it allows you to maintain the relationship above all, right? Like there might be some unwise decisions here, not that those are okay, not that you won't speak into those things, but independent of where someone lands at this time and space that they're in, they still know, from you and from Pam, like, we love you,
Yeah.
we're for you, and this relationship is of paramount, right, importance
Yeah.
to us. I think that's the essence of what this thing is supposed to be and look like. And that's but yeah, you're right. When you connect the dots between between that endeavor that you're passionate about because it's your kids, but when you connect that same position, that same posture, I guess you could say, uh with people from, right, the other world that are shaking their finger or looking down, or having an issue with what you're doing in the name of church and challenging you, maintaining that relationship above all
That's
is
a that's
that's a
different.
different story. Yeah,
That's
it's
different.
hard, man. It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. Yep.
And it's like the logic of it doesn't always compute, which for me is where like I get frustrated. Like I have like one of my closest friends, like, in my neighborhood, right? We get together pretty often, eat, laugh, have a great time. Is this dude named Nick is my neighbor. Looks like Dave Grohl. Like people sometimes will like literally stop and look like they'll do like double takes, you know what I mean, when they first meet him. I mean the hair, the look, all of it, the glasses. And anyways, he's from Tampa, same age as me. We grew up, pretty close to each other. And he's a brilliant dude. He's a scientist, and he is a very outspoken atheist.
Mm.
And
Oh, you've told me about him before, yeah.
yeah, and I'm just saying, like, we have this, really cool relationship, man, and can differ on a number of things, and even argue about them passionately. But then, hold up a beer and cheer right one another at the end,
Yeah.
and do anything for each other. Um, Sometimes that's hard, man, right? When you're dealing with people who are saying Jesus is Lord, and but then yet not, right? They're not able to keep or maintain a friendship. And then just the loss of logic, like within those conversations, man, that, like, golly, that can get frustrating.
Yeah, well, like fri friendship was always just shown as a means, you know, and friendship was really something truly only to be had with people who think like you, believe like you, who are in the church.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any friends, well, you can just go right on over to that table over there and put your name down, and you know, you'll get placed. You'll get placed in a small group, a life group.
Yeah. I wish they would just be
Community
honest and
group.
just, like, instead of saying, like, find community, small group, on the big banner, it just needs to say like eHarmony for adults, you
Yeah.
know, eHarmony
Yeah.
for faith.
Yep. Yep. Well, you got to
Yeah.
close the back door, Russ, because a lot
Yeah.
of people come and a lot of people leave, but if they get connected to a community group, then they'll stick, they'll stay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I got a lot of trouble because I was always the guy on the stage at a conference that was telling church leaders, hey, guys, if you actually take what Jesus did to heart and what he told us to do to heart, um, the object of this thing is that you would open the back door, not close it.
yeah,
Your
we can't.
success is not because this thing grew in numbers. Success would be that you equipped people to go live their lives with Jesus
You
and become
know,
good neighbors and build community where they are. You guys are
that
like,
is
you're
not
pursuing the opposite of what success is. That never
that
sold
is not
well.
helping the bottom line, dude. That is not helping give the passer a raise next year.
Mm-mm.
Not at all.
No,
Um,
no. But I think what we're, earlier,
well,
just
really quick. I was just gonna say, friendship was a thing that was like really valued and talked about like in the church, but friendship was just a means or a tactic outside the church to sort of, you know what I'm saying, like help get
mm-hmm.
a person, you
In the
know,
system. Yeah.
yeah. And so then you had like all the missional dudes would have their, sort of West Coast missional offense written down on the board. It looked like a freaking,
X's and O's and
it looked
everywhere.
like a Ben Johnson trick play.
With John
It
Madden
was
explaining it.
about how we're gonna do this thing,
Boom,
you know,
boom.
and I was enamored by a lot of those ideas and things, and then I actually went and stepped out to go live it, and oh man, this more looks like a 9-year friendship with a neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
There's not a
friendship was
lot.
the
There's
point.
not a lot to draw on that whiteboard with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when you say it like that, man, like I get pushback. They're like, friendship's not the point. The point, I was like, guys, what I'm saying is the essence of the Trinitarian God in which we find our existence is relationship.
Yeah, God is communal.
Yeah. I'm not saying that just because you are a friend to someone, that means they're all of a sudden going to admit their death and cling to Jesus as Lord. I know that. I know speaking good news to people because you want them to find, right, the freedom that only faith can bring.
Yeah.
Amen. But my point is, I think we, as you said, we flip that around and we treat relationship as a means to some other end.
Yes.
Instead of relationship is the nature of this communal God.
Yeah.
Discipleship is a means by which people can awaken to the true riches within it.
Yeah.
Right. Like you discover the difference between community and communion. Like, as you said, community is, it's simple, right? It's just finding connections with common interests, common values, common beliefs, common enemies.
Yes.
Right. That's how humans connect. But communion's opposite of that, right? Communion is finding a relationship, with someone that's bound up in someone even greater who lives in us, that can bring enemies together.
Yeah.
People who can be polar opposites in all regards of life.
Yeah.
Yet find this deep love of one another, right? Mm-hmm. Like, dude, that's communion. And you can't eat harmony, that shit, bro.
No,
right?
You can't.
There's no sign up table for that.
Yeah. Yep. Because you can feel very, very alone in the middle of a community group surrounded by, a lot of folks, church folks included.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But I love the beauty of it, man. Like,
yes.
And I love the essence of how simple it is when it's just home, right? Your family. I'll make this quick, but I was talking with a guy a couple of weeks ago, similar story of yours, and he's got 2 feet out the door. His wife is 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and there's that fear of like the kids, the systems, and what's needed, sure. and from a logical standpoint,
give him my number, dude. I'll chat with him.
Yeah,
I'll let him know he's not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone, man, and he's thinking through it from a practical standpoint, right? He's like, hold on a second, this idea that my kids are somehow going to wander off and rob banks and kick dogs if they're not in a church system, it's found nowhere in the scripture. It's nothing that the early church ever did. It's nothing, these systems aren't anything that Jesus ever told us to do. And then let's just look at like society right now. We've got churches bring in, I think recent statistic 2024, about $30 billion annually for stages and right and structures. And then you look around and it's like, was this effective? Oh, by the way, you do know that 97% of church growth is people moving from one church to the next too, right? And he's like, oh, I'm like, just think about it, through that lens. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. Just out of curiosity, would you go to a parenting conference led by parents whose grown children all live in their basement? And anyways, he just laughed. I've shared that story before, and he's like, "No, dude, that's insanity." I'm like, "Well, that's kind of what you sign your kids up for." Mm. What if instead you looked at communion as your kitchen table and let grace be what it is? Let relationships be, right, the orbit by which all of this exists in. And just had fun loving on your kids and pointing to Jesus and celebrating good news around a meal the way Jesus told us to do.
Yep. And it's not a romantic thing. It's
No.
not like this like, fairy tale movie-esque, like storyline. Like it's
Yeah.
very mundane.
Yeah.
And it's compared to like the stage and the hype and the things that get celebrated, and you know what I'm saying, all those metrics and numbers, and like look at this and look at this. Like those things are happening, but they're quiet and they're slow.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot, dude. Like stepping away from the church is not a dude. We should do like a stepping away from the like a guide to stepping away. And like
Yeah.
all the things that you would experience, in that. We could do like a leader version, we could just do like an everyday person one, because those things are different.
Mhm.
I kind of thought that I really wasn't about like human approval and like pats on the back and attaboys and all that, until you go from Pastor Tony to someone seeing you in public and turning around and just avoiding you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. My first encounter with that was when I left pastoring in Asheville. And the church we had planted was doing really well from, like the church statistic standpoint, just to be clear. And man, I couldn't walk into a store without somebody. Like I couldn't go anywhere without somebody
yeah,
walking up, talking, hanging out, right? Always patting you on the back. And I didn't think I was addicted to that either, man. And then we picked up and moved to the city of Chicago. I didn't know anyone in the city of Chicago. I didn't know a
yeah,
single, like not one single human being in the city of Chicago.
yeah.
And I remember talking to Krista like her third or fourth day there, and I was like depressed. And she's like, "What's the matter?" And I'm like, "Well, I just went to
Nobody
the
knows
grocery.
me.
I just went to the grocery store. And nobody even came up to me."
No one
And
freaking
I was
gives a
like
shit who
sad,
you
dude.
are.
Right? No pats on the back. I tell my story of what we were in the city to do, and some neighbors like, "Yeah, that sounds good, but no thanks." I was like, ah.
Man, you lived on the north side. Don't even act like anybody was out there talking like that.
Oh, dude, I mean, I would agree. You
I'm
have
just playing. I'm
yeah,
just
you
playing.
definitely have a lot of transplants there. But we lived on a really cool street, and I would say like half my neighbors, like born and raised in the houses they lived in,
Yeah,
right, the apartments they lived in, and
that's great.
inherited it from their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to experience like that element, which was cool. Um, but yeah, dude, that it's hard, man, because it's not just this false safety net, right, that you've lost, which you need to lose, right? Like I'm just going to say this: sacred cows, um, yeah, they need to be offended and mosey off. they're, they're not the ones to chase down. Um, so yeah, that false safety net, losing it, man, that's one thing. But then you just, again, we're humans, so we have that addiction to just self-justification, man. It runs in our bones. It's called sin. So it's sometimes you're looking for it's approval or applause. You know what I mean? I can go down the list here. It's
Yep.
real, bro.
Safety,
And yeah,
comfort. And I don't say that as like some, you know, douchey missional dude talking about consumerism, from
oh
a
yeah,
pulpit or anything like that. But
yeah,
um, there's a promise that is, marketed and told to you will happen, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
if you do A, B, C, D, and E.
And
So
it doesn't
that's
come to
def-
fruition.
no.
Yeah, and for good reason, right? So I think we just have to cheer that. We just have to cheer that God is good and gracious, and He works in human desperation, right? there's a new piece on the website under resources, little quick series that I wrote up. I think it's called Rethinking What the Church Called Success. And one of them was a high school student that had reached out and was just saying, hey, I've been learning, from you guys, and stepped into being the church where I am and passing on good news and gathering people around that. But all the quote unquote church kids around me are just blasting what I'm doing, calling me a heretic, and this doesn't count. And
bro, where's this kid live? We need to go visit this kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
With his parents' approval, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Tony's got a little pickup basketball game that he'd like to organize.
Bring them all. Want to play some Sandlot football.
And he finally put that IU Santa Claus uniform on, run around.
Hey, I think that's a great idea.
So anyhow, I wrote this in response to to help him, and but it's the same thing new we've heard from people around the country and beyond, the pushback that they get, and oftentimes the response is always like, yeah, but look what our church did. Look how many people came. Look how many decisions were made. Look how many students went to the leadership conference.
Yeah.
Right. And so you deal with this like, well, numbers is success, and it's like, really? Well, then God must be wildly enthusiastic about prisons and terminal cancer wards and recovery centers. Yeah, he loves those. In fact, he wants us to set them up and orchestrate prisons and terminal cancer centers everywhere, because funerals, right, from those who've overdosed. Think about all the people who find God in those tragic places.
Right.
The numbers are staggering. Does that mean that God's for it? Well, no, of course not. Well, what does that mean? That means that God is good and he meets us in our desperation. That's what's going on there. And yeah, you probably encountered him in some system that you were in because he's good, not because the system's good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really want to experience that freedom that faith was actually meant to bring, the life that Jesus actually gave you, then there's going to be some real withdrawals, you know what I mean, as you step away from that into that life. So maybe we'll do that. We'll create us a fun little leaving guide. And
jeez, man. Well, until then, until we create this thing. See you in 6 months.
Stay free, my friends. Stay free.
Cheers.